working? Yep, there it goes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. And we're coming to you live today, and we're going to talk about email a little bit, just a little bit, and some exciting news for some of you. I hope so. And so let's get started. This is from my connection on LinkedIn, John Stammel. I wouldn't say we're friends. I don't know that we've chatted much, but he writes me, and I got an email. I got an email from him, and I read it, and I got to his article. It said we're at an email tipping point, and so here's his status. I don't know when this was. If it was a Monday morning. On a Monday morning, I usually do get about 250 emails, and he said of that 243 emails, he trashed 90% of them. He kept 10% and he responded to 1%, which is, fairly generous of him, I would say. I kept track this morning because I knew I was going to be talking about this. I had I went to bed pretty late, so I only had like 43 at the moment. Since then, I've gotten about another 40. So if I would have waited a little longer, it might have been more like 100. But of that 43, I kept one. I didn't reply to it either. Okay, so my email is much less personal apparently than his, and I go to great lengths to try not to give a signal that I've opened it. Okay, so what I do is highlight one that I'm okay with saying that I opened. I click on it, which I know because I've actually tested this with WDMA email, because I don't get a lot of opens on that. And so one more, I can look at the stats, on MailerLite, and then I can try to not open an email, and it counts it as an open. Okay, it's very difficult to delete an email without it counting as an open. So what I do is I click one that I'm okay with opening, some retail marketing, publication that I'm okay with, and then I just highlight down, oftentimes 100%, and then I hit delete. So my understanding based on my own testing is that those will not, on the rest of them, will not say opened. But if you just click on them and then delete them, you opened them, right? Or if you click on them and mark them red, you opened them. Okay? So it's in spite of, the best tracking, supposedly best tracking of email, it way overstates whether anybody's reading your email or not. And we won't get into that too much, but I just want to share that with you and fact check that if it's wrong. This was from a couple of probably 2 or 3 years ago when I used to send more emails. It got to be pretty worthless, so I stopped. Instead, I hand send messages on LinkedIn to people that I know are interested best I can, and it gets my hands numb after about 1,000 messages go out, but I do it by hand, by myself, no robots involved, just in case LinkedIn is listening. So anyway, he kept 21 to review, which is 8.6%. In total, I get 3,000 to 5,000 emails a week, and fewer than 5% are of real interest to me. Way higher for him than me. I don't look at nearly that. And when I was doing this every morning, I had to look at a few more, but really, really not. So Statistica says there are 376 billion emails sent per day. How many people are there in the world? Let's say 8 billion. Okay, so that's I don't even get 8 billion. That's like 200 emails per person per day. 200 per person per day. And I'm sure not all 8 billion have email addresses. Let's say it's 6. Although it is pretty pervasive. So at 6, yeah, it's 500 per day or some crazy number. I don't know. Don't do math on live streams. Anyway, and so emails are expected to rise to more than 408 billion per day just in 2 years. And there's no end in sight. And as AI proliferates and says we're all prospects for someone's business, the onslaught will only continue. I believe we're at a tipping point. You think? You think we're finally at a tipping point? Oh my gosh. So what's the solution? So here's his cut on the solution. It says everyone wants to be listening to, wants to be listened to, and those who actually ask, listen, and respond will see their emails and text opened, read, and acted upon. Actually, those who listen and act in to emails will be deluged with emails. I'm surprised he didn't look at it from the aspect of the recipient. So I believe that the tipping point was a little earlier than this year. I was on CompuServe long ago, long before, a couple of years before, I think it was 1990, when I was able to do email on CompuServe with people that I was enrolled with at the UMKC, did direct marketing certification. And so I saw it coming in 1990, and about 1995, when the internet was just getting started, I built my first website in 1995. I wrote an article for WDMA, actually, back in it was there in those days too. And I suggested that as cost per contact approached zero, yeah, I remember Arthur Hughes, running into Arthur Hughes, who has a book on RFM, at a convention, and I said, we're going a little beyond RFM these days, and he said, oh, with email, we just send it to everybody. Didn't care. And that's kind of the way it goes, right? And so I wrote an article, as cost per contact approaches zero, care per contact will approach zero. And so I take a little bit of issue with John, because nobody's going to care anymore. With AI, it'll cost less to generate emails, not more. And so my guess is we'll be flooded even more. And eventually we'll turn them off and give up. And we'll use person to person, like our family uses WhatsApp and Messenger, not Facebook Messenger, but the other one. And I use LinkedIn. If you want to get a hold of me, just find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. I get a handful of messages, personal messages a day. Any InMail, if you use InMail, I'll delete it without reading it, because I've never read one that was actually real. And so I don't care anymore. So you can spend your money on InMail, but it won't go to me. But just write me a little note. And every now and then I get crazy notes that I write back and say, you sound like a bot. And some people say, oh, that's funny, I'm not a bot. I don't know if they are or not. Some are bots, and they hang up, and all of a sudden their account disappears. Fantastic. Anyway, so I don't see this as a solution at all. Zero. Not a solution, John. Sorry. But I did run across a new fellow, Drew Sanaki, and I got a call earlier in the week from a friend of the show, Jonathan Jonathan Drake, and he told me how much he enjoyed my book. Where's my book? I got books around here. I actually sent him years ago. He bought a book, and I sent him the audio version, and he said he's still listening to it. I'm guessing not for the first time. And he told me about Drew, and actually sent some of my videos over to Drew. And I am impressed, I have to say. This is exciting stuff. And this was a post just from a few days ago, the 80% problem, how top brands use the echo email echo to win back dead customers. And I'm impressed with it for a couple of reasons. One is that he doesn't say direct mail. He's learned from people like me who get 0 views. Jonathan said that probably proves your credibility that you get 0 views. I said, yeah, I should have taken up podcasting on breweries in Wisconsin or something instead. But anyway, so Drew has bought a few direct-to-consumer brands, and he said one of the reasons he was excited to buy them was that they had millions of customer contacts in their file. But the truth is, when they started evaluating them, barely 20% had opened an email in the last 90 days. Now, don't forget what I already said. I would guess it's way less than 20% because a lot of those people were just clicking on it to delete it or trying to ignore it and accidentally gave you the impression that they'd opened it. Not true. Not true. Mostly not true. You know, I mean, USPS claims an open rate for their informed delivery. I'm guessing that's also not true. From what I've heard, I've never heard a really good case study on incremental lift from that. But anyway, happy to hear. You know, get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Send me a little text. We can talk. We can Zoom if you want to. Okay, so, but the second reason why I'm impressed, since we're already halfway through the article, his article or his post, and we haven't gotten to direct mail yet. Smart. There it is right there. I see it. There we go. Direct mail. The other thing he did, you know, I got kind of my start in consulting with Vic Hunter. And one of the things we would do is get people into cataloging. And we would tell people, unless you're ready to print 250,000 catalogs and be ready to take orders and have inventory and all the rest, which usually was a million or two back in the 80s, just to get started. Unlike that approach, Drew has an incredibly smart approach, which is to say, look, whatever's working in email, assuming that email is not completely useless, take those offers, take that technique. You know, it's like cart abandonment. Somebody doesn't finish ordering, send them an email. You're probably already doing that. Well, you can also send them a postcard, right? Especially if they're a repeat customer. Or if they're a repeat customer that's bought 5 times and hasn't bought in a while, send them a postcard, right? And so whatever you're doing, you can expand on it with mail. And according to Drew, you'll get a similar ROI. And these things have high ROI, that's why you're doing it. Okay, and he gives some case studies right here. And it sounds like he actually knows what he's talking about because Jonathan said they have an API to Shopify. So if you're on Shopify, I highly recommend, you can get in touch with me, maybe I'll get a commission or something, but get in touch with Drew. And let's work on this. Now, I've listened to a few of his he usually puts a video up with his post. And there are some more things that we could do, especially if you're larger, you know, if you've got 100,000 or more customers, active customers. And by active, I mean like 0 to 12 month buyers, active within the last 12 months, bought in the last 12 months. If you've got something like that, then there's a lot that we can do. And I would love to do it with Drew and with you. So this is the kind of thing I'm looking for to help USPS recognize the incredible power of direct mail. And so I'd like to reach out to Drew also and say, let's work together on this. Let's build very, very well crafted testing. Show the EBITDA incremental lift and get the attention of the U.S. Post Office so we can save the mail. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart.